This is a really weird book, with dragons and dinosaurs and Nazis trying to get unicorns so they can conquer the world. It does start out somewhat normal. Indiana Jones is on Easter Island. He makes a connection with a good looking woman. A secret group tries to kill him, and he gains access to 200 ancient tablets. Typical Indiana Jones setup, right? But then he leaves Easter Island and never comes back. The characters and events there don't reappear. You could completely skip the first three chapters and miss nothing. Argofunk Book Review, Argofunk Book Review. If you're here for the weird stuff, you should probably skim the next four chapters. Indy and Marcus are in Chile, looking for a man named Hans. The locals think Hans was taken on board a ghost ship run by shape-shifting pirates. Indy's captured shortly after he discovers the pirates are actually there to harvest fish eggs. And this is when the weird stuff starts. The ship's captain is a gorgeous woman named Salandra. She says she's a private investigator who spent the last year looking for Indy. She has magic powers, like the ability to turn into a falcon. She is also a princess from the island region of Pincoya. I wonder if she knows Moana. Salandra explains that her people live on the inside of the planet, just on the opposite side of Earth's crust. As a result, all the buildings look sideways. The fish eggs are used to make a liquid named nalka. You have to drink nalka, or else you will die when going from one side of the crust to the other. Naturally, Indy thinks this can't be real. There's no interior world. He thinks the entire thing is a weird dream hallucination. He spends most of the book complaining. Salandra doesn't help because she keeps talking in mysterious half-statements instead of telling the truth right away. She could prove it's real at any moment by turning into a falcon or using some other magic, but she says she doesn't do tricks for entertainment. I guess she would rather have Indy accuse her of lying at every turn for months on end. When they arrive at Salandra's island, they learn it's been conquered by the evil Maleiwa. This brings us to why Indiana Jones is here. At the end of the last book, Indy wanted to get rid of a dangerous cursed artifact, said to be a unicorn horn. He hid the horn in a cave, then blew it up. It turns out that cave is one of the dozens of secret entrances to the interior world. So Indy didn't destroy the horn, he actually threw it into the hands of Maleiwa. Maleiwa is now using its power to conquer the world, but that's not enough for him. He wants to conquer the exterior world too. So he's made a deal to combine his army with the armies of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, in exchange for an unlimited supply of nalka. Does that story make sense? The people who live inside the world are giving Hitler a unicorn horn so they can get fish eggs. That is literally the story of the book. It's like the author was trying to come up with the craziest premise ever. I am shocked how many reviewers liked this premise because it was just way too weird for me to wrap my head around. And I read the previous book about the unicorn horn. Since Indy was the former owner of the unicorn horn, that means he's the one who can take it back. So that's why Salandra went to get him. Indy and Salandra are in jail for what appears to be a single night. We are later told it was a month, because time moves differently when you're inside the earth. Sandra explains everybody here can tell time based on an inner clock, like the aliens from Animorphs. Also, since there's no sun under the Earth, the sky is lit up by a constant flow of charged particles, operating on the same principles as the aurora borealis. I like how they try to give a scientific explanation for some things here, but with other stuff, it's just Salandra's a magical princess, that's why it works. A guard helps them escape. They go through a waterfall to a lake with many leeches and a giant octopus. Indy punches it in the eye. They travel across a rocky ravine where they are attacked by mountain dogs. Salandra temporarily stops them with a spell that gives them puppy minds, so Indy can kill them in a rock avalanche. They reach the fabled Land of the Lost, which is a giant labyrinth that leads to the surface. They have hallucinations, including one of Indy's car and a demon that kills the dogs. It's the third time in the book that dogs have been attacked or killed. Does the author hate dogs or something? Salandra and Indy engage in adult activities, even though this is not the time or the place. Afterwards, she's temporarily trapped in dream memories, where she learns the maze they're in is actually a living creature. The maze talks to them by projecting a cat monster, and it agrees to let them escape if they promise to defeat Maleiwa. This is so weird. It's just weird. The maze lets them out in Colombia. Salandra says the nearest portal back to the interior world is on top of a mountain by Santa Marta. Do they have to go back to the interior world? They just got out. Why did they leave in the first place, only to immediately go back? Indy plans on ditching Salandra and going home, but he decides to stay in order to help save a priest who was captured by hostile natives. Indy, Salandra, and a young tour guide named Ricardo take a few days to reach the mountain. It turns out the priest story was a lie to get Indy to come. The hostile natives are actually Salandra's friends who protect the portal to the interior world, and Ricardo was working with them the whole time. Indy is rightly annoyed that all of his so-called friends were lying to him. Salandra reveals everyone in the outer world has a counterpart in the inner world. The two of them share the same spirit. Indy and Salandra are counterparts, or spirit mates if you prefer. She probably should have mentioned that before sleeping with him. Indy tries to leave, but Maleiwa's forces attack. Indy has no choice but to follow his companions into a secret portal back to the interior world. That's where it's revealed Ricardo was actually Salandra's father in disguise the whole time. This is the only point in the book where Salandra turns into a falcon. I think she should have done that more often. There were plenty of times that flying away could have come in handy. They're close to Maleiwa's home now. They go past a large waterfall and they traverse a deadly swamp filled with dragons. A giant almost kills Indy, but he's saved when the giant is killed by a dinosaur. Indy is surprisingly okay with the fact that dragons and dinosaurs exist. Maybe he decided to stop questioning how things work here. Salandra tells Indy he can sense the location of the unicorn horn, which is information that would have come in handy 200 pages ago. Indy uses his power to figure out which road to take. That leads them directly to Maleiwa. Indy and Maleiwa go through a portal to the Statue of Liberty in New York City. They have a big fight on top of the statue, which would have been cool to see in a movie. Indy's whip is a great help to him. He shatters the unicorn horn by throwing it against the statue's tablet. Maleiwa falls off the statue and through a mid-air portal that takes him back to the underworld maze. The epilogue is several days later, where Marcus convinces Indy the entire book was a drug-induced hallucination. I have a feeling drugs were involved in the creation of this book. The end. Post-book follow-up. I don't know what to say. This book was so weird and trippy, and often not in a good way. There were plenty of times where I couldn't understand what was going on, like I was reading a really long explanation of a convoluted dream. If the dreamlike hallucination sections had been short, it would have been fine, but it goes on for hundreds of pages. I couldn't handle it. The first 7 chapters are okay, but as soon as Indy's taken to the interior world, all semblance of sense goes out the window. It's almost like 2 totally different books were put together. Overall, I thought the book was flat out terrible. The premise is utterly bizarre. Indy has to stop Nazis from trading fish eggs for a unicorn horn with people that live on the underside of the Earth's crust, including his spirit twin lover, who's a magical princess. I'm surprised the editors agreed to publish such a weird story. If you're looking for something truly strange, you might like this book. If you're looking for something like the first Indiana Jones trilogy, no, look somewhere else. I will give the book a pity point, because the first 7 chapters were okay, it's just too bad they had very little to do with the rest of the book. I give Indiana Jones number 6, Indiana Jones in the Interior World, a 1 out of 10.